So schools are closed and families are getting together over this season. And it's such a joy to have families together over these gatherings. So you don't have to worry, because Kikapu Kibonge suggests that with a bigger basket, you get better value with no compromises. So why can you do this? Because you get access to all the things that could meet your family needs from this holiday. Of all the stores nationwide, you can shop for everything your family needs this Easter. Even better, redeem your Naivas loyalty points and make sure it's little ones that have everything they need for the holidays and getting back to school. So get everything that you need this festive season and getting back into school with Naivas Kikapu Kibonge. All right, so things are getting a little bit more expensive, aren't they? And sometimes you're not quite sure how you're going to handle that. And one of those things is healthcare. We're going to get into that conversation this morning. And seated in the hot seat of the Situation Room already is Liz Nyaga. I want to say Liza, right? Short for Elizabeth. Or just Liza?
Liza.
It's just Liza. I like that, actually.
Short for Liza.
Liza is short for Liza, so let's keep it. I like that. And I know that CT is already thinking about the nursery rhyme stroke song that has your name in it, but maybe we'll give him an opportunity to sing that for you later. Liza's general manager and head of medical booking and group life at Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited. And we're talking this morning about rising healthcare costs and the state of medical insurance coverage in Kenya. Liza, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
Like I said, you're in the hot seat of the Situation Room. It's that seat where folks come and we have a conversation about issues, matters arising and what we need to do about them and how we can navigate sometimes the really choppy waters of life. So we're really glad that you can be here to have that conversation with us. So at this juncture, maybe CT will sing that song that he's thinking about for you. Okay. But he also has a proverb of which he gets from a different African country every week.
Okay.
So as though you don't have enough work to do, we're going to give you that proverb and then we're going to ask you to interpret that for us and tell us what you think. Yes?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Really a hot seat, yeah. Okay, just jumping right in.
Our proverbs for this week are from the Republic of Malawi. Buffaloes are held by ropes, man by his words.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Straightforward is for us.
Yeah, you're held by the words that you speak. You have to be very careful what you say.
Spot on.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Good stuff.
Good stuff, indeed. And so, again, thank you for being here and looking at some of the things that you do. Looking at the state of things currently, life is getting a little bit more expensive for Kenyans, isn't it?
It is, indeed.
And one of the things that you want to make sure that is healthcare needs. And we could go into the whole conversation about, what is offered by state and what is not. Mm-hmm. But then also the realization that when you're sick, you're sick. You're not going to start asking questions about who's supposed to do what. You need something to be able to handle that. Mm-hmm. So we want you to just give us an overview of the situation that then makes, Zamara offer the things that it does in terms of coverage.
All right. Obviously, when you look at the current state of healthcare in Kenya, the statistics are very damning. So you look at a population that is over 55 billion, but only under 30% of that have some form of medical insurance. And that includes the government-sponsored insurance. In Kenya alone, about only 5% of the population have private insurance. This is what is over and above what the government currently provides. When you look at insurance penetration, it is way below what other markets do at, I think we're doing below 3% currently. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you've had the saying and you've talked about proverbs right now, but in Kenya, we say you're one sickness away from poverty. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very easy. And if you think about the last couple of months, how many funeral groups you've been invited to on WhatsApp, the level of mortality, it's going up. It's going up every day. And it is really dire, and it's easy to look at it and say, what is the industry doing? But when you look at the progress that we've made over the last couple of years, already as at last year, the medical premiums from private insurers were way over 60 billion. All right, so there's a large investment in private healthcare. The number of brokers are rising, the number of agents are rising. Recently, we even have international health providers coming to set up shop in Kenya, which means there's a lot of opportunities. The need is there for private health insurance. And so we've seen there's hope, there's increased coverage. Many years ago, there are a lot of things that were not covered. Maternity was not covered, you know. If you go to the hospital and you get vaccines, those were not covered by private insurers. So we've seen a lot of increased coverage. We've seen embracing technology. Today, you can call a doctor, you know, and they'll diagnose you and the drugs can be sent to your doorstep.
Right.
Which is something that was not happening before.
Yeah.
You know, the partnerships are working. So it really is an ongoing conversation to see how we can improve that. And at Zamara, of course, that's one of the things that we do very well. And I know we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes in terms of the things that we've done to improve healthcare and the state of it in the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into it. And what are some of those things? And usually when you think, okay, so what then do you cover and how are folks then able to, you know, click into some of these offerings?
All right. Number one and biggest is to demystify health insurance through education and through making sure that our clients understand what they're covered for. All right, insurance can tend to be very technical, it can tend to be very wordy, and so ours is to break down the jargon and make sure that you understand what you're covered for. Number two is making sure that we have tailor-made solutions for our clients. Different clients and individuals as well come to us with variety of needs, you know, and you're looking at different demographics, the young, the middle age, the old people. How do you make sure that you're catering to each of their needs? And ours is to tailor-make products. Number three is negotiating with the insurance services and insurance providers. Yeah, because we are really the in-between. We are the advisor, we are the consultant, we are the client's advocate, making sure that you're getting the terms. Of course, it's a balance between benefits and costs. As you said, healthcare costs are rising. So how do you make sure that you're still giving the same level of benefits while keeping it affordable for clients? And that's where we step in to tailor-make those products. And number four is that we have clients in different geographical spaces. You know, we have a lot of expatriates, we have a lot of multinationals. We are in 7 countries already as it is in Africa. And we have clients in each of these countries. How do you make sure you're getting solutions for them in each of those countries? Yeah. Then finally, which is important, is at the point of claiming. How do you make sure that the claim is paid? There's a big conversation on claim rejection, why are claims rejected? And ours is to also educate members why are claims rejected in the first place, and how do you make sure you have a high success rate when it comes to claiming. And then finally, the last thing is making sure that we are delivering value to the client in terms of value addition. You know, what are these things that you do over and above what other people do? And so we partner with clients to do things like lactation rooms, to do things like if you're a young population, you need wellness activities and all these things. Those are some of the things that we do for our clients just to enhance the employee experience. Yeah.
So, insurance. Zamara is a brokerage.
Yes.
Right. And the other people who are called insurance companies, what do they do that is different from yours?
All right. Good question. Insurance companies ideally manage the risk. So they are the risk carriers. So the premiums are paid to the insurance companies. They manage the risk for the whole year. They pay your claims. Yeah. The insurance broker then comes in to do everything else. They do your administration, make sure your data is up to date. They do the member education. They do the claims administration, making sure your claims are paid. And over and above that, they offer what we call value-added services. And I'm talking about Zamara, what we do. It could be different brokers do different things, but this is what Zamara does. Yeah. So our value proposition is very strong because ideally we are the advocate of the client to the insurance company. Yes.
As the advocate to the client, then it would mean that a huge portfolio would be good for Zamara. But then again, we also understand the penetration of insurance in the country still remains low. Even you said around 30%, including what government offers. So then the question would be, why is it there, and what is Zamara and other players doing in ensuring that this portfolio continues to grow and that more Kenyans see the benefit of enrolling into medical, especially at a time when little money, insurance cost is high, but still we must all be on medical insurance?
All right, that's a good question. So what are we doing to improve penetration? The first thing is education. A lot of people do not understand first, why should you have insurance? We find a lot of people running to buy insurance when you need it. When your mom is sick, when your dad is sick, or when somebody is sick in your family, that's when you run to take medical insurance. And so how do we change that mindset? By making sure we educate people and we tell them the statistics of what it looks like if you don't have a medical cover. Number two is to make sure the products are affordable. There's a big issue around affordability of medical insurance, and especially for senior citizens. Today, if you retire and you try and go and get an individual medical cover, it's extremely expensive. So how do we then advocate and come up with partnerships with insurance companies to make sure that the products we have are affordable and do meet the needs of the larger population? Number three is through partnerships. We have partnerships with healthcare providers, partnerships with insurance companies, partnerships with many other providers that are able to offer customized products to make sure that we are then increasing the penetration, including partnerships with banks. Bank assurance has been widely underserved or in terms of capacity, it's not enough. So how do we empower them to make sure that they are reaching out to as many customers as possible to then improve the penetration across the market?
Okay.
So are you arguing that because of the work that Zamara does and others who do what they do, that what we're referring to as the outreach for insurance services has increased in the country?
That's an interesting question.
Yes.
I am saying there's more that can be done. We are not yet there. However, we've come a long way. Even looking at what the government is doing around improving what they currently offer. If you compare the benefits that were offered by NHIF and what is offered under SHA, despite all the the noise and the things that are not working, everybody is trying to improve to get to a better place. Now, there's still a lot that can be done, to improve what we are offering, to improve the education, to improve the penetration. And a lot of it really is going towards changing the perception of people when it comes to insurance. Because insurance you're selling a promise.
It's the reason why I asked the question.
Yes.
Is because the one thing that we have in abundance, and we have it right across the economic divide of the country, are chamas. Okay? People coming together. Now, where individuals may not be able to understand the services that you offer, such groups would, if spoken to.
100%.
And their members and those in the communities they come from would listen to these people more than they would you.
100%.
So, when we talk about expanding this scope and ensuring that as many people as possible can get it, there are those who are referred to as the underserved. They are very large in number. What has Zamara done to ensure that this untapped, because it's untapped, is actually reached? And if they've tried, what have they done, and what are the limitations, and what are the successes?
All right. You'd be surprised, one of our strategies this year was around how do we serve the untapped market. SACCOs,
Okay.
chamas.
Consider me surprised.
Oh my gosh. So there's very many conversations around. Actually, if you look at the IRA report last year and the new products that were approved, all of them were around the health space. How do we serve SMEs? How do we serve MSMEs? Yeah. And you're right. There's a lot of education that needs to go to the grassroots level to make sure that such organizations are actually empowered with the information that is required. And that is one of the things that we actually do. Yeah, we partner with a lot of SACCOs, we partner with a lot of small groups. We have a very elaborate retail strategy to serve both our retail customers and our SME clients. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, combining these two things, Liza, that we know that healthcare is expensive and that the costs of things are just getting higher and higher. Plonk that against the fact that you're going to have to need something to fall upon should you get sick. And so in between is don't wait to get sick, but have something that you can do or that you can fall back on. So how then do you encourage people, or what have you put in place to ensure that even people can approach this in bits. If you have a healthcare plan for a year that costs 100,000 shillings, go to anybody today, and the likelihood of them being able to give you 100,000 shillings at once is very low. So, are there ways in which people can do this bit by bit?
Yes, there are. And I think there's a lot of misconception and miseducation because when you look at the variety of products that are offered across our market, there's different products for different levels of people. If you look at the SACCOs, for example, and one of the insurance companies, I won't mention the name, is actually very big with SACCOs, and they have a specific SACCO product that is very affordable. It won't allow you access to your Nairobi hospitals and Aga Khans, but it does give you a very good level of cover and very, quality providers. And that is the information that is not really out there. Number two is that we have payment plans. If you require a payment plan, that is something that we're able to negotiate. Banks have very many products when it comes to insurance premium financing that you're able to leverage on. And so really it's how do we meet you at your point of need? Because the needs are different, and we're able to respond to each and every one of them.
So as the mediator or the in-between between the broker and the client, I mean the insurance firm and the client, every day you meet different people with different concerns. What could be some of the greatest concerns that those seeking insurance raise to you that need to be changed for them to look at insurance as something that would benefit them?
All right, I'll break that down into two parts. So talking about, because corporates are different from individuals.
Yes.
When corporates are coming to us, so many years ago when we had corporate organizations coming to us, it would just be about this is the coverage I want. I want an inpatient of X, an outpatient of X, your maternity, dental, and optical, and that was it. And this is how much premium I'm willing to pay. But today we have very different organizations coming to us and telling us, aside from the medical, I also want wellness activities. I want you to help me with making these costs come down. I want you to make sure that my employees are happy. Yeah. And that is really the interesting thing that is happening, because clients are demanding more and more. From a corporate side, clients are demanding much more than what your ordinary cover, pay premium and pay claims, which is good, because then it helps us to then navigate from a point of service offering and value addition to the service. Now, when you look at individuals, cost is a big factor, because a lot of people do not want to pay more. Yeah, so making sure that the cost makes sense to them, and you see there are different limits that you can offer to the client. So you can choose from a wide bouquet of products to meet the client's needs. So that's one of the biggest things around cost. The biggest other issue is for individual products is around waiting periods, because when you sign on a product, then you have to wait for a certain period. For example, if you have a pre-existing or a chronic condition, that's one of the biggest complaints I have seen. Yes, and then of course access to the provider panel, which providers can you access? There's a bit of limitation on that front, but again, depending on which insurance company that you're using, then we are able to navigate some of those challenges.
What would be the conversation around the waiting period, because it is a concern, and how are you as a brokerage firm addressing that with the insurance firms? All
right, the conversation on waiting periods goes back to the perception of, let me say, Kenyans, but I think it covers a lot of other markets. And it's what I said, people buy insurance when they need it. So, you're sick, you have a surgery in 6 months, you go and buy insurance, which then loses trust with insurance companies, if I were to say. Because insurance really is a game of trust. It's utmost good faith. It's you're not buying so that you can claim. It is you're buying to protect your resources, really, as you would say. So that is where waiting periods come in, because a lot of people buy because they're going to claim. So if you're buying, then let me protect myself. That's the stance that they take. However, at Zamara, what we do is, number one, if we already have existing clients and they're transferring from one insurer to another, we negotiate for some of those waiting periods to be waived, because you already had insurance anyway. if it was another insurer, you're not happy with them, or you're coming from another broker, we negotiate for those to be waived. Number 2 is that we have partnered with insurance companies to have what we call umbrella insurance products that people can come in with very negotiated waiting periods. So as opposed to waiting for a year, you'll wait maybe 3-4 months. Yeah. So you come in to the umbrella cover and you're able to enjoy benefits of what would be maybe a corporate cover, or more affordable and more flexible, as opposed to getting an individual cover by yourself.
How this thing works again, please? This umbrella cover.
All right. And there are several that exist in the market. The one that we have is customized for our clients. So it allows you to cover. So I'm sure, like most of you, maybe have parents, siblings that you take care of, isn't it? So, and a lot of individual products will limit the entry age for maybe parents or parents-in-law, whatever it is. So our cover then enables you to join the cover. I think the maximum entry age is about 80. So you can join the cover. The waiting periods are negotiated. So if you go to a standard insurance policy, the waiting period for, say, pre-existing or even cancer is maybe a year or 2 years. Our cover only has a 6-month waiting period.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look at the coverage, the limits are extensive. You can buy as low as 200, 300,000 and as high as 10 million. Talking about inpatient. Yeah. And the rates are pre-negotiated. And you can join in. When you join in midterm, your premiums are prorated. So you only pay for the portion of the cover that you're in. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and this is a thing that even when you're sitting down, I mean, I remember the first cover I took. For the life of me, the jargon, I think what confused me into just saying, okay, where do I sign? Because I didn't understand what they were saying. But I knew at the end of the day, maybe it's equated to you need something, you need coverage, and then you will go. But I did not understand half of the stuff this gentleman was saying. And so that could be one of the things that dissuades us then from, number one, understanding, and then number two, taking on a cover that actually fits us in our time. So then what are you doing, or how are you making it easier for us to be able to understand what it is that you're selling and what we're buying?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And I think when I got into this industry over 10 years ago, I also struggled. You know, you're reading pages and pages of benefits and exclusions and all these things. If you look at the international products, those policy documents are 20, 30 pages long. Yeah. So
Must they be 20, 30 pages long?
I'll say yes and no. Because the devil is in the detail. And if then you do not have somebody that's able to read that detail and interpret it for you, then you can be in trouble. Would you rather know all the details of what is covered and what is not covered, or would you rather a simple document that is not very clear? And that's why I say yes and no. So our role is to take that 20, 30-page document, make sure that whatever you intended to buy is what you have bought. Because we are the experts. We understand what all those terms mean. If you look at, for example, and it's so interesting, the definition of a pre-existing condition. If you put 3 insurers here and you ask them, what do you define a pre-existing condition as? What do you define a chronic condition as? You'd be shocked. Different insurers have different interpretations. So ours is to make sure that whatever you intended to buy is what you have bought. So we debunk it for you. We tell you this is what it means. We come and educate your staff members. If it's a retail client or individual client, we take them through the coverage. For some, they tell us, just make sure this is covered, and that's what we do. Number 2 is, how do you make it as simple as possible? So we simplify the policy documents. We come up with what you call a risk note or a write-up that gives you the general coverage of what is covered, so that you're able to understand from a layman's terms, this is what your coverage is. But on the back end, we look at the entire document to make sure that it covers what you intended to cover. Number 3 is we have different modes of communication. I don't know if you know that we're on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram. Yes, our clients actually look forward to our TikTok videos every Friday. Because the next generation of people that we're covering are not on Facebook.
No, they're not.
So how then
they're
do
not
you...
in an email.
Exactly, they're not on email. So making it relevant, short and sweet, but at the same time communicating what you're covered.
Okay, just before we take a break, what is a pre-chronic Okay. I was going to say a non-existent illness. What is a pre-existing condition?
All right. A pre-existing condition is a condition you had before you took the cover.
Like yesterday.
Yes.
So I could come to
So
you
if you have been
today.
treated before, for example,
Yeah.
for diabetes,
Yeah.
it's a pre-existing condition.
Okay.
Now, for some policy documents, what they say is that it's a condition you had whether you knew or not. So today, if you're diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, of course you had it because you went through stage 1, stage 2, stage 3.
But sometimes you can be diagnosed and find that you have stage 4 and you had no idea.
Exactly. So if you look at some policy documents, they will tell you it's a pre-existing condition, whether you knew about it or not, and whether you were treated for it or not. If the medical report says you've had this condition for 2-3 years, it becomes a pre-existing condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sour.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds strange.
Is that why when you take some of these covers, the insurance companies require you to take a medical test?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially the retail and individual covers. Corporates do not require, but individuals, if you're at a certain age,
Yeah.
they will require you to take
A medical test.
Medical test.
Okay. Let's continue this conversation after this break, because then we get into some of the nitty-gritty of it, right? And then what makes it a little bit more uncomfortable sometimes, and now what you have solutions for. Liza Nyaga is the General Manager and Head of Medical Broking and Group Life at Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers, and we're having a conversation about, okay, so how do we take care of some of these costs and the state of medical insurance coverage in Kenya? It's 27 minutes to 9. We continue right after this. And that I don't have to buy the whole leg of the goat, but now you can cut the pieces that I want, and then that's how I purchase. Has that changed to that extent?
To some level, yes, it has. There's a lot of changes that have happened, even just looking at the last 10 years, in terms of how insurance is underwritten and how it is sort of placed with the various insurance companies. And of course, in coping with economic pressure, how do you adapt? Because you can't keep pushing that cost back to the client every time your claims ratios go up, every time your costs go up. So some of the adaptations we've seen, of course, the biggest one is around digitization, automation of processes. I don't know if you know this, but there's insurance companies in this market whose claims, at least about 40% of claims, are not touched by humans. They are processed by robots, in this market. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. Not robots like the old thinking robots, but machines that are able to look at a claim and say, this one pay.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a lot of investment in automation. There's a lot of investment in systems, because you can't keep hiring more people or getting more space the more your business goes up. There's a lot of work from home arrangements. There's a lot of outsourcing to other providers, just in a bid to reduce the costs of managing and operating insurance. Number 2 is, of course, embracing telehealth. A lot of Kenyans, I think a lot of people do not believe in, you can call a doctor, they can diagnose you, and the drugs can be sent to you. A lot of people believe a doctor has to touch you, feel your heart.
I want a stethoscope on my chest.
You want a stethoscope on your chest. You need to be injected.
Yeah.
I need to be on top of a weighing scale,
You know. So that has changed. And you see, if you look at the cost of consultation through a doctor on the phone, it's 1,000 bob. If you go to a doctor, he'll cost you, a physical location, whatever, maybe 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. If it's a high-end doctor, around 10,000, 15,000.
True.
So those are some of the innovations that we have seen. Of course, it's cheaper, it's faster, and it's more efficient. Now, the biggest thing around medical is, how do you mitigate risk, fraud risk. Many years ago, you used to have photo cards. It just has your photo, you go to the hospital, you produce it, and you're treated. Today, we have biometric solutions. Yeah, we don't even have the physical cards anymore. Your fingerprint is your access to healthcare. So then when you go, you're able to do that. So the fraud risk really has come down in terms of making sure that we are reducing that. And of course, with the big data that we have now, a lot of data analytics has informed how products are priced.
Is fraud risk really possible without a knowledge of the insurance industry or working within that particular industry?
It's very possible. Very possible. If, for example, you share a name with somebody, or you look like somebody, if it's just a photo card, they can easily use your cover. And we've caught a lot of those. In the last 2 years, and having been in this industry for over 10 years, I've not seen as many fraud cases as I saw last year. And people are getting smarter in how they mitigate fraud. And remember, fraud emanates both from the user and sometimes even from the provider end when they want to defraud insurance companies. So that it really comes from different areas when you think about fraud. Yes.
So this is an element of trust, and it is an element of trust that as a user of the insurance, I need to trust my the insurance provider to meet me, to provide the services for me. But then again, there is also the element of trust in the sense that I need to trust my insurance to be able to deliver to me at that opportune time when I need that service. Because most of the time you find the users, the trust just goes away because at some point you went to insurance and the bureaucracies that are in there are so massive that you just get tired and you actually walk out of that insurance. So how are we fixing that to ensure that more people actually look at insurance as a safety net for them and not somewhere where they go in despite of paying their premiums, then they're frustrated?
Okay, I think it goes back to what we've been talking about knowing what you're covered for. And number two, having somebody that is advocating for you, educating you. Normally we have a 24-hour call center. So when people go to the hospital and you're frustrated, either by the provider or the insurer, then they reach out to us. And we're able at that point to tell them, this is not in your cover. If maybe they did not attend any education sessions that we had. Or if it's a grey claim, going back to the conversation about why claims are rejected, if it's a grey claim or a borderline claim, and maybe we'll talk about that after this, then we negotiate with the insurance company to pay for that claim. Sometimes there are things that are not captured in the policy document. You did not anticipate it, or the spirit of the contract did not capture the wording in the contract. The wording in the contract did not capture the spirit of what you wanted to cover. So how do you then make sure that you do that? So it's a lot of education, a lot of change management, I think, from providers and insurance companies to build that trust. And it has happened in developed markets, where you're sure of what you're covered. And when you go to hospital or even when you use any other insurer, then you know that whatever you bought will actually be covered.
How does Zamara handle or manage post-retirement medical cover? All
right. So that's new in the market. Of course, we introduced, it was, I think, passed a couple of years ago. And the essence of a post-retirement medical fund is to allow people to save towards retirement, and whatever you save then goes towards the cost of healthcare. Now, we are all aware as you grow older, your health needs rise, unless you're one of the lucky ones who you're at 80 and you have no chronic condition, you've been living active,
And you have all your teeth.
You have all your teeth. There are a few lucky people who are like that, isn't it? But when you grow older, then your health needs do rise.
Okay.
So the essence of a post-retirement medical fund is to allow you to save, just like a pension fund allows you to save and you use that money towards your pension needs. Then the post-retirement medical fund, whatever you save, is used to purchase either a health cover for you or go towards treatment for any conditions you have.
How does one join this particular fund?
So we actually are specialists in that, and we have a pensions team that is able to give you more details on that. So it's really just setting it up either as a corporate, and then you have the contributions coming in, they're managed, the interest is credited every month, and then at the end of the year, then that money you're given options in terms of what you'd want, whether it's to purchase a medical cover or manage the fund on your behalf and pay for your health needs as they arise.
Okay, so let's do this, Liza. I walked to you today and, I want to take on a medical cover. I want to be able to pay something every month or however the case may be that would cater for needs later. We are in your office or you've met me, wherever, because, now we're doing it differently. Okay. What do you need from me You want to hear what my needs are? Okay, so maybe things are a little bit creaky now and then. Every now and then I have a headache, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe nothing too big. And I want to be able to go in for a checkup every now and then. And if I catch a cold, I want to be able to walk in for inpatient. And if then something major happens, I want to have a cover up until a certain amount. Are we saying that nowadays it's a buffet that we pick from? And then you say, okay, this is you pick from here, 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 and here. And this is how we arrive at a bigger number. And then we can whittle that down to you paying. What do you tell me to do? Or what questions are you asking me now that I can answer for us to create this bouquet for my medical insurance today?
Okay. So when you walk in, of course, it's what you've said. What is your age? Because a lot of these individual products are aged, priced. What is your age? What is your medical history? Do you have any predisposition because of family background or whatever to certain conditions? You mentioned about you want a checkup every year. There's some products that don't have that, so those automatically would be off the shelf for you. What are your needs? You're saying, what is your health status really? So once we ascertain that, we also look at what hospitals do you want to visit? Because people have preferences when it comes to the hospitals they want or the doctors they want to visit. And we compare that against what is available. Now, once we have all that, we look at the cost. Because benefits first, needs first, and then cost. And then we propose a solution. Normally, we will give 2 or 3 or 4 options for you, because sometimes insurance companies have brands. There are people that would not want to work with insurance A, B, C, either because of a historical issue or they did not treat my mom well, they did not. So all those things sometimes come into play. But ours is to make sure, number one, are your needs met? Will you be able to use whatever benefits you had in mind? But also, number 3, you might not know everything. Yeah, there are some risks that you might not have, thought you had. So ours is to make sure that you are aware of those, and then we look at the cost.
Can I come to Zamara to help me customize a certain scheme for me? Because you say maybe there's a hospital I want to go to. There are some aspects that I want covered. I want others dropped. Am I able to come discuss with you and look at what provider would be able to customize a specific scheme to meet my needs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We serve over, I think on the medical space, over 200 clients, and each of different clients have different provider panels. There are those that, exclude certain providers. There are those that want only a certain level of providers. So those customizations are openly available, and we're able to do that for corporate organizations. Yes.
So I want this, but maybe I'm not able to afford it with the premiums that you're talking about. Can you then, it just sounds like trade and barter, but isn't that where we are in this day and age? I don't want to take everything. I want to be able to take what I can afford, and I also want to take the responsibility of making sure that this, option is there. So then you talk about tailoring according to needs. Can you tailor according to necessity and affordability as well?
Absolutely. There are a lot of clients that come, and especially the healthy clients. If you're healthy, you go to hospital once a year, for example. There are those that only take inpatient only covers in case you have an accident or a severe illness and you need to be admitted. So you only take inpatient because you can easily take care of your outpatient, walk-in, dental, optical, you can take care of those. So that's the kind of customization that we're talking about in terms of making it affordable and also meeting your specific need as an individual.
All right.
Yes.
So there's this thing we hear all the time, and it's group life. And you think, oh God, okay, how more? Are we inviting death?
You die with faith.
They're saying, okay, hurry up, guys, so that we can give you something. No, but and it just seems to be something that, okay, so since you're taking medical insurance while we're here, why don't we just tack on group life, right? So it seems like something you don't really need, but it looks like it gives some kind of brownie points. Yeah. Why do we insist on it, and how do we get folks to take it more seriously?
All right. I think to talk about group life, you have to talk about how it came about and why it's important, and how the benefits around death compensation have evolved. So many years ago, I think we only used to have WIBA as per what the government covers. If your employee gets sick as a result of a work-related environment, or you get an injury while at work, then as the employer, you're entitled, or you're supposed to compensate them. Now, the challenge with WIBA is that it only covers you when you're working or during your work hours. So if you get injured, for example, on your way to work, or on your way to home after work, then there's no compensation. And so it brought about what you call WIBA Plus or group personal accident. That sort of makes WIBA a 24-hour cover, whether you're working or not. Makes sense, right? Now, if an employee then passes on as a result of a natural illness or any other illness that's not related to work, there's no compensation if you only have GPA WIBA. All right? Now, let's look at the causes of death in the country. The top 4, as per my research in, I think, the last 2-3 years: pneumonia, cancer, sudden death, malaria, TB, HIV. I've not had any accident so far. So people are dying more from cardiovascular diseases, non-communicable diseases. So things that really are not accidental in nature, which is where group life comes in. Because then if you have a critical illness, there's a benefit that group life pays, a cash benefit that allows you to access medical care. If you pass on in the unfortunate event that you pass on, then group life pays a benefit towards you. Now, the good thing with group life is that it pays a benefit regardless of the cause of death, whether it's accidental, natural illness, or natural causes. That's why group life is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Are Kenyans taking more of that?
Oh yeah. There's a big uptake. Obviously, as you said, it is the benefit people think about after you've taken everything else. Most people just think about medical, and then the compulsory insurances like motor. You have to insure your car, and then group life is like the benefit that is left at the back of
It's like the kid who's not picked on the team.
which is very unfortunate. But what we've done as Zamara is improve some of the benefits within group life to make it attractive to employers. So when you look at our group life policies, some of the things we cover are parent last expense. If your parent dies, we give you an amount limit. If you have parents-in-law, we cover them. You have spouses, children. We include some of those covers in the group life benefit.
But you have to have taken it before. You can't wait until...
Yes, it's a ride-on.
Okay.
Yes, it's a ride-on. Actually, if you look at other markets, like even just across the border in Uganda, their group life benefits include school fees benefit for your children in case you pass on. They include, if you get a critical illness, for example, and you lose a limb or you lose a hand, they give you a benefit to be able to remodel your house, to suit your new situation. So there's evolution in terms of these benefits, and really it's the education and showing employers how relevant it is.
There's something called an accident insurance.
Yes, group personal accident or personal accident. Yes.
Personal accident.
Yes.
What on earth is that?
It's insurance that covers you in case you have an accident. In simple layman terms.
And it doesn't matter where you have the accident.
No.
Yeah. And what are the things that it covers? So in the event that I have an accident and I lose my head, okay.
It will pay for your last expense. It will pay for your last expense. But yes.
I'm asking the question, the benefits of it, and what it is that one can expect if one has taken this personal accident insurance.
Okay, so looking at the group side in terms of the group personal accident, there are 4 benefits that are embedded in there.
Yes.
So the first one is a death benefit. Of course, if in case you die, there's a benefit that goes to your beneficiaries. In case you're permanently disabled, there's a benefit that is given to you. In case you have what we call temporal total disability. So for example, let me see what is relevant for your field. If you lose your voice.
Sorry.
And they have to hire somebody to do the shows that you do.
Yeah.
Right? There's a benefit that is paid to the employer to compensate them for your absence. That can be used to pay for the resource that would ideally come.
I see.
Yes?
That is now group.
That is now group. Yeah.
What about if I take it for myself?
So for yourself, it really depends on the policy. So most of the cases, it will cover for your expenses, your medical expenses, in case you have an accident. For some policies, it will even extend to third party. If you hit a wall you know, of some property, and they ask you to pay. So it will extend to third-party liability. Yes.
Okay. Something that really, strikes me, or that I continue thinking about, is that the majority of people who might require or who should actually hop onto any kind of insurance, health, life, like this, is folks who may not, number one, have access to the information or the technology through which we've seen this thing changing. And that's in the majority. We're talking about tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the changing costs or the increasing costs of healthcare, we also need to then look at the widening bracket that is needed to cover. How can we get closer and closer to a space? Because when we talk about development as nations, it's not just fancy roads and big cities, it's the fabric within, right? We talk about, do people then have access to information, quality healthcare? And even if it's not at a public level, even if it is at a private level, and we've seen that you can take little morsels of that. How do we get people? How do we get, the lady in, the northern part of the country, the eastern part of the country, who is sitting plying their trade, to get onto that place when they realize, I could get sick one day, and let me take care of it now, and I can pay 500 shillings a month, and I can put that together, 50 shillings every day. I can do something. Isn't that where we start? But how can we get to that point whereby we have the majority of people covered, really?
I think it's what he said, and a big part of it is partnerships with organizations that go to those remote areas. And we do have those NGOs that serve in those very remote areas, your chamas, your SACCOs, your small groups. Recently, actually, as late as last week, we were translating a medical policy into Turkana language. So how do you... And that's a thing. It's small things that we can do to make sure that we are communicating in their language. Yeah, those partnerships are very important with a lot of those organizations. And I think even for you, how do you reach the people in those areas? Because partnerships with even people like you, like what we're doing here, then does help in terms of disseminating the knowledge and the education to those underserved communities. Yeah.
We've got a question here. One says, I changed insurers just a week ago. I can't access, I think it's something in relation to what you had mentioned earlier, but just for a little bit of clarity, I can't access my new insurer because of the waiting period. How can I navigate this?
All right. I'm not sure who their broker is.
Yeah.
They should
Maybe they don't have a broker.
Maybe they don't have a broker.
Yeah.
Because if they had insurance before and they are transiting to a new one, then what that broker should have done was negotiate for some of those waiting periods to be waived. And actually the regulator has done a bit of work to make sure that there's some level of standardization. So when you're transitioning, then there's some waiting periods that automatically should be waived. So I think he or she can reach out to their current insurer and maybe provide details of the previous insurer. And if they have an agent or broker, they can help them to negotiate for waiver of some of those waiting periods. Yeah.
What does it cost to have a broker?
Nothing.
Just repeat that so that
Nothing. It doesn't cost anything to have a broker. We don't charge you any extra to place your cover.
So how do you make your money?
The insurance company pays us a commission for placing business with them, but as the client, there's no additional cost for you to have a broker.
Really?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Unless then there are other things that you'd want us to do for you, like, elaborate wellness programs or to come and do things that are outside what insurance is. And we do a lot of those, yeah? But your standard managing your insurance coverage, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. And, look, it's always important for us because we talk about development every day. And across sectors, it's good to be able to do things like this and then be able to see actually where, that help can come from. Every day, we make a little bit of a step in that direction. And so because of that, we want to say thank you for being here this morning and being able to point us in that direction. So, great to know and great steps that folks can take into the future. Liza Nyaga is General Manager and Head of Medical Broking and Group Life at Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited. And that has been our conversation this morning. Good morning, 9 a.m.